I'm Jay.
And I'm John.
And we're Bucket List Travelers.
And in this video, we're going to talk about how to travel in Costa Rica cheaply.
So we traveled in Costa Rica for 25 days and we spent only $25 per person per day.
In this video, we're going to go through all the different costs that you're likely to experience whilst traveling in Costa Rica. So that includes accommodation, it includes food, activities, transport,
as well as other costs like travel insurance and COVID tests in Costa Rica. So this video will be very useful for anyone considering traveling to Costa Rica, and particularly for those that want to travel to Costa Rica on a budget. So first of all, you're going to want to know why you should travel to Costa Rica.
Well, firstly, it is a country of amazing natural beauty. Whilst Costa Rica is a small country, it contains nearly 6% of the world's biodiversity.
Costa Rica is a tropical paradise. It has such a wide abundance of natural beauty, including a lot of different animals and plants, and best of all, it has sloths.
And on top of that, it's got amazing tourist infrastructure. The public transport options are quite varied and also very comfortable.
And it's just a really easy country to travel in.
And to top it off, the people of Costa Rica are amazing. They really live and breathe their Pura Vida lifestyle.
So now that you've been sold on why you should travel to Costa Rica, we're going to share the breakdown of our costs for traveling in Costa Rica.
Now let's start with accommodation. For our trip in Costa Rica, we spent 25 days, 24 nights there, and we spent a total of $509 in accommodation.
That varied from $16 a night to $29 per night, depending on the accommodation that we chose. We stayed at a range of Airbnbs as well as a couple of hotels. And while they were modest, they were very comfortable and had everything we needed.
We did also spend a month where we stayed in one place in San Jose. Now, we haven't included that in these figures because we weren't really traveling, we were just staying put. Now, you may be interested to know that we were able to get that 3-bedroom house for around $500 for the month.
All of our figures are going to exclude that period of time because we weren't really traveling. We were mainly working on these videos for you. And if you want to see more of our videos like this, then don't forget to subscribe for our channel. But let's continue with these costs. The accommodation that we stayed at was modest but very comfortable. They had Wi-Fi included, and some of the places had quite fast internet, which was really handy for us.
Yeah, it's some of the fastest internet that we've seen in the Americas, including the US. There was one place that had download speeds of over 150 megabits per second.
Very handy if you're a digital nomad in Costa Rica. The Airbnbs that we stayed at were studio units. They had kitchenettes, bathrooms, everything you could need. Sometimes they had a work desk as well, which was handy for us.
And you might be interested to know that they all had hot water. Now, in Costa Rica, hot water is the norm. That's not the case in a lot of other Central American countries. So it's a nice little perk.
In terms of finding great value accommodation in Costa Rica, we have the following Costa Rica travel tips.
Now, the time of year is quite important for the cost of accommodation. So it's good to know when the peak season and the off-peak seasons are. So the peak season begins in around mid-December, and that goes all the way through to April, to the end of Easter, essentially. And the low season coincides with the rainy season, which goes from around May all the way through till the end of November.
While traveling in rainy season can have its challenges, the rain typically comes in the afternoon and it only lasts for a couple of hours depending on where you are in the country. So we find that this is actually a good time to have some downtime, maybe take a nap, check on your emails or whatever, and it doesn't necessarily have to interrupt your travels too much.
Yeah, so most mornings it will be perfectly clear, beautiful day, great time to do morning tours when you're traveling around Costa Rica. Just be mindful of the afternoon. So it is likely to rain, as we found out with this night tour.
As you can see, the weather right now is pretty miserable. These aren't surprisingly the best conditions to do a night tour. So it's really wet. There's also lightning around. Whoa. So it's not the safest. So we've decided to reschedule for another 2 days.
We found that there was a wide variety of Airbnbs in Costa Rica to suit all different types of budgets and all different types of levels of luxury.
So we were really lucky to find some great Airbnbs for really cheap as well. And you can typically find those around the really popular tourist areas of La Fortuna and Monteverde.
We found that they have some good inclusions as well. So one of them had Netflix, which was really handy. We did find that when looking around, it is quite expensive in some of the beach areas, particularly the areas that have become popular with celebrities, such as Santa Teresa Beach.
So when you plan a trip to Costa Rica, try and mix it up. So see a little bit of the beach and go into the mountains like La Fortuna and Monteverde, as we mentioned before. There's just so much amazing natural beauty all around the country.
So with our trip, we actually were planning to go to the beaches, but we had to cut our trip to Costa Rica short. So that's why we don't have any beach accommodation included in our costs. But we do recommend that you go to the beach when you're in Costa Rica.
So when it comes to Airbnb accommodation, as well as other accommodation, it is possible to get discounts if you ask. So don't be afraid to ask, don't be afraid to negotiate. And also, if you stay for longer periods of time, that will give you a bit more bargaining power as well. So for example, with Airbnb, you typically get weekly discounts and monthly discounts as well.
Yeah, and that's generally built into the pricing. But if you ask, especially if it's low season, if you ask for a further discount, then you may get lucky. If you're a digital nomad and you've got a lot of flexibility in terms of the time that you spend in Costa Rica, then maybe have a look at Facebook groups and house sitting groups, and you might be able to find some places where you can house sit for free in exchange for looking after their house and maybe looking after their pet as well. And if you're staying in one place in Costa Rica for a month or more, you may be able to find fully furnished accommodation with all your utilities included for around $500 a month or more.
And now on to the yummy part, the cost of food in Costa Rica.
Over our 25 days in Costa Rica, we spent a total of $110 per person on eating out and $72 per person on groceries.
Most of our meals that we had out were at local restaurants, and we had the Casado option, or the executive lunch meal. So the Casados are great for finding cheap eats in Costa Rica. They're great meals. You get a drink, and then you also get your choice of meat, whether it be beef, pork, chicken, or fish. And then you also get a range of sides, so gallo pinto, which is beans and rice, as well as patacones, which are green bananas fried. They're like banana chips.
Really good.
Yeah, they're really nice. And then you also get some salad as well on top of that. So it's a really great value meal, and you'll find that for $5 a meal on average.
And for nicer restaurants, we typically spent around $10 to $15 per person. And there are so many nice restaurants in Costa Rica. There's international restaurants, there's local restaurants. There's really everything you could want.
We had some Peruvian restaurants, and we even found an Egyptian cafe as well. So
yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, you get a big range of international restaurants as well. So that's a really great thing about Costa Rica too.
So for us, we generally ate out about once every 2 days for a main meal and had a snack out probably about 2 or 3 times a week.
One point to note about the restaurants in Costa Rica is that your service charge and tax is already included in the prices on your menu, so you don't have to pay anything more. The service charge or tip is 10% in Costa Rica.
As long-term travellers, we tend to cook for ourselves a bit more than going out to restaurants when we're travelling. And what we found really surprising in Costa Rica is that the supermarkets can be quite expensive. Now, we've got a whole review about the supermarkets in Costa Rica in our Costa Rica travel vlog on the supermarkets in La Fortuna. We'll put a link to that in this video. So if you want to know more about the supermarkets in Costa Rica, then check out that video. The cheapest supermarket in Costa Rica that we've generally found is Maxi Pali.
Yep, so you'll find Parleys or Maxi Parleys pretty much anywhere. And there's also Walmart as well, but there aren't as many Walmart stores.
Yeah, they're mainly in San Jose.
Another tip for you is to find the local farmers markets or the Feria del Agricultor. They are typically on weekends and you will find fresh fruit and produce that are going to be up to half the price that you will find in supermarkets. The local farmers markets in Costa Rica can be found in any town or city in Costa Rica, and they typically have Facebook pages as well, so you can locate them that way.
And we've got a video about that as well, so make sure you check that out. So for internal transport in Costa Rica, we spent $37 per person on our internal transport between 5 different locations in Costa Rica. And when we were in each location, we walked around the area.
Bus transport is just really handy and it's just really convenient. The buses are really quite comfortable as well. Our longest trip was a 6-hour trip from Monteverde to San Jose, and that cost us $5 US each.
One really cool way to get from La Fortuna to Monteverde is to take the Jeep boat Jeep. So that's generally around $20 to $25 per person. You can buy tickets from a lot of different tourist information centres and hostels. They're really easy to find the tickets, and it's a really great way to travel. So it's quite an experience just in itself. And we do recommend shopping around for prices for that.
Uber is available in Costa Rica as well, and that's also a relatively cheap option to get around. So we used Uber in San Jose to get from our accommodation to the airport. So it was about a half an hour drive, and it cost us $11 US for the both of us. So we haven't included the cost of flights in our Costa Rica travel costs because everyone's circumstances are going to be different. You might be traveling from Nicaragua like we were, or you might be traveling from the US. It's all going to vary. But what we can say is that our flights out of Costa Rica to the US, to Miami, we were able to find flexible ticket flights for around $150 US per person.
There are so many great activities in Costa Rica, but they can be expensive. Now, we did 4 paid activities in Costa Rica. They included a private boat tour down Caño Negro, and that was $50 per person. We went to the La Fortuna Waterfall. That was $18 per person. We found some sloths at the Bagaran Sloth Trail. That was $10 per person. And finally, we did a night tour.
Yeah, so we finally got to go to our Curicancha night tour in the end, and that was $25 a person. When doing activities in Costa Rica, some tips to keep the cost down would be, firstly, in most areas there will be a range of tourist operators that charge a range of prices. So it certainly pays to just walk around and check out the different prices. Another tip when you are engaging the operators, and especially if you're planning to do a lot of activities, you can get multi-tour discounts as well. So it gives you more bargaining power if you've got more activities that you want to do with a particular operator.
And Costa Rica also has plenty of free activities to do. Be sure to check those out as well. Some of our favourites included in La Fortuna going to the natural hot springs. There's also a local watering hole called El Salto, which was beautiful. And just wandering around the area is just a treat in itself because it's got so much beautiful scenery to look at.
In Monteverde, we walked up to the cloud forest and there's this amazing cafe, the Colibri Cafe, where there are just heaps of hummingbirds that you can just watch and admire for hours.
Yeah, and they come so close to you as well, so that's really beautiful. Some of the other free things we did in Monteverde included the Cerro Amigos hiking trail, as well as going and taking photos at the Fictus Route Bridge.
And if you're staying at an Airbnb, your host will often be a valuable source of information to find all these great free things. And finally, other costs that you need to be mindful of when traveling to Costa Rica. There is a fee that you pay when you leave Costa Rica. So if you're flying, that's automatically included in your flight ticket, and that's $29. If you're leaving Costa Rica via land, you pay $7 US at the border. Other costs that you need to be mindful of when traveling to Costa Rica include the costs involved with traveling to Costa Rica during COVID. This includes insurance if you're not vaccinated. So when we were in Costa Rica, we weren't vaccinated at that time for COVID. We needed to pay for insurance for the whole period that we were in Costa Rica. Now, we paid $135 US for 90 days. So that works out to be around $1.50 a day.
And we bought our insurance through International Travel Insurance. We found them to be one of the most affordable insurance options for Costa Rica.
Yep, and they covered all the requirements that the Costa Rica Tourism Board require you to have.
Now, if you're leaving Costa Rica, you will most likely need a COVID test. We found that the COVID tests in Costa Rica were pretty easy to find. They were reasonably affordable, and we paid $42 per person for our rapid antigen test in San Jose.
And one of the great things about Costa Rica is that you can find testing stations all over the place, especially in San Jose.
And we have a video dedicated to traveling in Costa Rica during COVID. So if you want to know more about that, then check that video out as well. We hope you found this video on how to travel to Costa Rica on a budget useful. And if you did, be sure to give us a like and leave us a comment. We read each and every one of your comments, and we always love to hear from you.
And if you want to see more videos about Costa Rica, Central America, and the world, then come travel with us and subscribe. We are Bucket List Travelers.
See you next time.